Greetings everyone and welcome to Keeping Up with Papa, Life After Work, where we find out how one man manages to keep himself busy, physically active, and mentally engaged after retirement with projects. Today's project, well, it's looking a little bit like the staircase leading up to the bonus room above our garage is in need of a little assistance. I don't know, what do you think? Check it out. Away. Helps me with it here. So this thing doesn't crack. Welcome back. Well, it's probably fair to say that this staircase is in need of repair and or replacement. I mean, check this out. And the really sad part about it is they shouldn't be. They're only about 10 years old. You think you would get more than 10 years out of a staircase made out of treated lumber. That's not the case. In fact, this is the second time I replaced them. The first time they went maybe 12 years beforehand. So this time around, I'm doing something a little bit different. Let's go take a look. Now, to be fair, I recognize that these are not the best of conditions for lumber to be sitting in. This is actually contacting the ground, which is supposed to be ground contact, but it still has rotted out here, broken. It's got a crack along here, and that same condition kind of works its way all the way up. A big part of the problem is up here above me I have a guttering system that doesn't work perfectly, and it spills onto the steps, and that additional water during rain just kind of makes things worse. Also, it's covered up to some degree with dirt and pine bark, and that really just helps to assist with decay. Third time building these? Let's hope the third time's a charm. Now, I readily admit that the first two times I built them, I made a mistake, and I think I repeated that mistake the second time around. I'm not going to do that the third time. And that mistake has to do with the actual stringers themselves. Now, I cut the stringers perfectly. They're accurately the way they should have been done. What I didn't do is cut them long enough. I should have had one more step down, and it caused me to have some issues with the tilt on the steps. I ended up with the steps being tilted down a little bit further than I would like, and as a result, as you'll see from this inset, I had to put spacers in up top. And gradually as I went down, the spacers got smaller and smaller until they completely disappeared. That allowed the stair treads to be level. This time I'm going to add one more step down, and that will eliminate the issue with me having to do any kind of spacing up top. It is, quite frankly, a rookie mistake. I shouldn't have made it. The landing up top is fine. No need to replace anything on that. All of this coming down for the railings is also fine. No need to replace any of that either, with the exception that I probably will disassemble it and then rebuild it, because I'm going to have a spacing variation now, probably between these two posts and the post over here. So I'm just going to have to redo all of this, but I should be able to salvage a lot of the lumber, particularly these, and reuse them in the new build. These four posts I will not be able to salvage. They're actually just pretty much in sad shape. The tops of these there's a big hole down through them. There's not much left here at this point. Also, the support system that I have down at the bottom. First time around, all four of these were sitting on concrete and tied in with a Simpson connector. I was able to reuse those on two of them, and these other two I decided to put on these blocks that you see right here. Actually, that worked fairly well, but I'm not going to do that again this time. This time I think I'm actually going to just embed all four posts in concrete in the ground. That'll give me a tremendous amount of stability that I don't get here now. The other thing I plan to do differently is how I essentially terminate the stringers down at the bottom and what they sit on. This one right now is sitting on the concrete pad. That one over there underneath is sitting on a concrete pad. This middle one was just kind of hanging in the air, and that's not good. I'm seriously thinking about maybe just pouring a small concrete pad that runs from this point to this point over here and allows this stringer to sit on top of that. That'll be a whole lot more stable than what I did previously. Also, I had a great deal of difficulty over the years with our good buddies, the armadillos, digging out underneath here, right where this center stringer is. By putting in a continuous concrete pad down there, I will eliminate that problem in the future. So what is changing and what is remaining the same? Well, one thing that's remaining the same is I do like using these 2x6 treads. I could switch over to a 2x12, but a big flat surface would hold a lot of water and it might warp. I like this idea a lot better. So I will be sticking with a tread length of 10 1/4 inch. Works out really well. What will change? That will be the riser height. Right now this riser height is 7 inches. Well, why am I changing it? First, I need to get rid of these spacers, and that's step one towards fixing that issue. Reason number two, I need to add one more step going down. Right now I have 12 steps going down. If I go to a 13th step and shorten this down from 7 to 6 3/4, kind of adjusting things by 1/4 inch all the way down, and combine with this, that gets me pretty much where I need to be down at the bottom. Also, the ground here is sloped downhill, so I have to account for that as well. I believe by going from 7 to 6 1/4, getting rid of the spacing, adding one more stair tread on the way down, I'll take care of all those issues. I guess we'll find out. And one more comment. Now, these boards are not cheap, so I'm going to cut the first one and not cut all three. And I'll take the first one and dry fit it up here and make sure my calculations work before I cut the other two. There are plenty of tutorials online showing you how to measure and cut stair stringers, so I'm not going to bother with that. One thing that I do want to mention is down at this end you can see I have some cracks. I want those gone, don't want to use them. I do have a 16-foot board here, and I'm only going to use about 13 feet of it. So I have plenty of drop on each end to work with. So what I've initially done is I've taken my square, my carpenter square, and I've got a 10 1/4 inch tread, and I've got a 6 3/4 inch rise, and I'm marking those. And I picked a point a little further down here to put that first mark on, or the first location on, which is a 10 1/4. So it's essentially right there. Then I'm marking this one at 6 3/4, which is right here. So you can see that I've done this twice now, and still my lines are just about not quite perfect, but I made a mistake or two in here, and so I've got multiple lines drawn. Well, I ended up getting it right, I think, the second time, and let's just see real quick. Yeah, so that's, even then that appears to be just a tiny bit off. We're only talking slight fractions, so it's really not going to matter. And once I've cut this first one, I'm going to save this template and use that to mark the rest of them. Also, from here I got my final tread at the top right here, ran it over, and then pretended that I had another riser going up, used that to make a mark, and then I just took the square and made a complete mark across, so I have a nice straight line. So I'll be cutting this end off, cutting this out here, and then cutting my first notch out on this, and then using that as my guideline for the rest of them. I had made multiple marks, as double checking to make sure that I'm cutting on the right one. Okay, now I have the back that will rest up against the wall at the top of the stairs. my first riser. This is my line. That should be 10 1/4 inches. Guess what? It's 10 1/4 inches. Perfect. I put a little arrow on that one to make sure I have the correct one. I've done the same thing on this one to make sure I have the correct line. So I'll be cutting this inside line and this outside line. Also, you'll note that it's important that you don't go really beyond this point. You'll start to weaken the staircase. So we'll go right up to it from both directions and then cut the rest of it out with a handsaw. One other point, this is not finished carpentry work. I mean, you definitely want to be as close as possible, but if you're off by 1/16th or even an 1/8 of an inch at times, it just doesn't make any difference. Perfect. Neat little trick that I saw online was to take this cutout piece and turn it into a template, which is what I'm about to do. So this piece that came out, which we know is correct, we now use it as a template to mark our next cut. For the second and the third stringer, I can use this as a template. One thing you do not want to do is cut your second one and then use your second one as a template on your third one. Always use your master as the template. Well, I've cut the first 2 notches, which gives me 3 steps. I've marked the rest of them all the way down. And now, when I get down to the bottom, I have my last step, and I've drawn it off completely here as well. Now, normally, if you have a standard setup where you've got a floor of some sort, you have to deduct the thickness of the floor off this bottom number. Right now, I'm sticking with 6 3/4 because I really don't know what I'm going to get into when I get down to the bottom on this one. So I'm allowing myself a little bit of working room. I can always cut this off later. When you're building a set of steps inside of a house and you've connected it up top, and you don't take this step in advance, it creates quite a bit of difficulty for you down the pipeline. Hey, let me tell you something, that handsaw, that's good exercise. But for the next 2, I think I'm going to use a reciprocating saw. So 13 steps total. I double checked it at least 3 times. I have 13 steps. I went over to the staircase and double checked that at least 3 times. I have 12. I needed to add 1 more. So we're good to go. Now I have to figure out how I can get this thing up there and use it as a template on the staircase and make sure it works. Simulation time. So this mark right here is 6 3/4 down from here, which is my rise amount on the stair stringer. So the top tread on the stair stringer needs to be right here. So I need to lift it up, set it in place right at that mark, and then I've dug a hole out down here at the bottom, and I need to just see how level it all is and how well it works. The thing is, how am I going to get that to stay there? Now let's tinker with it and see what happens. All right. Okay. Down just a little bit more. All right. that's where it needs to be from that perspective. Now, are we level? We are not level. This end down here needs to come up, which is actually good. Now, this is actually working out pretty well. I'm guessing I'm going to have to raise this up maybe maybe 1.5 inches to get level on those treads. So I just come up with an idea on how to stabilize that other end. Let me do that first. Time to get creative. All right. This piece was held in place with 2 screws. I loosened one up, so it'll allow that to pivot on the other screw. This is held in place here, so when I pick up the far end to level the entire stringer out, this will allow that to happen without the stringer falling off the post. Hopefully I'm right. Let's find out. Okay, we're going to see if it pivots well or not, or if it busts loose up at the top. There's a piece of concrete here. I'm going to set it on that. That'll be a good starting point. We want to see how level it is. Okay, level. That's pretty level. You could probably come up maybe 1/4 inch on this end to be perfect. When I actually set it in place, I'll be using a longer level to make absolutely sure I am perfectly level. And this proves out my math from up top, where I'm exactly where I need to be now on the first step coming down off the deck, and I'm ending up perfect down here. Look at the end of this. If I put a concrete pad from here to over here at that level right there, or I can actually make it a little bit different if I want to. But I think that right there is probably just about perfect. These rocks over here will get moved further down out of the way, or just get taken out altogether if I put the concrete pad there. That being the big rocks, not the gravel. And by extending this one step, I completely got rid of the spacers up top. Everything is lined up perfectly. I'm very pleased with the way this is turning out. If things go according to plan, today is disassembly day number 1. I've enlisted a little help, taking down all the railings and such today. Doing all the prep work. I'm going to build a box to go around the bottom down here for the concrete, and then pick up all the materials. And then sometime in the next day or two, all that will be left will be the steps and the stringers, existing ones. Those will come down, go to the burn pile. We'll put the new ones up. Stringers are already cut. Railings are off. It's all stacked off here to the side. The rest of that will be broken down, and some of it I may be able to reuse later. Day 2. Now it's time for final demolition and reconstruction, all in one day. Someone's living above the garage, and I'd rather them not have to carry dogs upstairs on a ladder. So here we go. We're going to remove the treads, we're going to remove the stringers, we're going to open this area up here a little bit, move this stuff here out of the way, put a little concrete pad in, put our post down in concrete, put the new stringers up, put on the new treads, and add in the other 2 posts that would be right here as well for additional strength. Let's get started. So when this originally was built, I used Phillips head screws. Repairs later on, I used Torx screws. These deck screws are much nicer for use in these kind of decks. So I need 2 bits. You what? See, I didn't want that to happen.
But it post.
Yeah, it's gonna make the concrete a little more difficult. Watch your step coming off. There's no steps behind you. When a screw won't come out, this should be the great equalizer. Good catch.
There you go.
Use this all you want.
Four.
Slam my thumb. You can see here that I used a metal bracket that was embedded in the concrete, and it's designed to do that, but honestly it doesn't work all that well. This time we're going to be in about maybe 18 inches down on the ground and encased in concrete. When your stringers go bad, this is what you use to support your treads.
That's all she wrote.
All right.
Well, I need the hole.
This right
What kind of blade is that?
here. A good one.
Apparently.
I think it's a dab. All right, hold the pole.
All right.
Get it out of there. Just for future handling purposes, let's go ahead and cut this one in half. Just so it'll be easier to get it up to the burn pile. Okay, volunteer.
I'm thoroughly impressed by that blade. I really am. No.
Well, here, I'll let you do the last cut. Just come down this way. Keep your face away from the debris. We should be wearing eye protection.
Got my glasses on.
Swing that in this direction. We'll pop off.
Thank you, Ryder. Oops.
Do me a favor and pick this piece of concrete up and put it over there, please.
Oh, sure.
I brought the tractor over actually to do it. My original intent here was to wrap a chain around the poles and just pull the whole thing out. Well, the poles broke right off. So that's not gonna work. There's a nice lip here. Wrap a chain around that. Honestly, this thing isn't that heavy. We could do it by hand, but that's the way it's supposed to look. I think this would look really pretty right there.
What you think?
So now I need to establish just where this board needs to be in relation to this backer board over here. So the height would be the height of our riser, which is 6 3/4 inches. That 6 3/4 inches is from the bottom of this board, the top of this backer board, down. So I come in here and mark 6 3/4. Almost impossible to see. Then I'm going to put a single screw into this temporary board just to hold this in place, and do the same thing we did earlier, which is pivot this up and down to get my level on the stringer. And that determines where I put the base of the stringer down at the end. Alright, so we're coming down about 2 inches. Let's get this set first.
Okay.
Alright, so double check. Pretty much right dead on. Tiny bit more. Okay. So now this is locked in place. I need to go get a level. Alright, so are we level? We are not. We need to come up probably 2 inches at the far end. So see if you can pick that up. Swing it a bit. So that's 1.5 inches. We have cut that distance in half, so now we need to come up another board dimension. Coming up another 1.5 inches. And we are so close, but we could stand to probably come up another 1/2 inch. So to do that, we need to get a little creative. Over here, right here. Well, there you go. See if that works. That's pretty close to perfect. Well, now let's get a real level. This small torpedo level is good. And for general guessing. So this is a little more accurate. Dead on. Perfect. Okay. Alright, so we established level. Now we have to figure out what we're going to do down at the base. So there's the form box. That's concrete?
Yep.
That's a surprise. All right. So now we have to get this box where the bottom of this is at the top of the box. And in order to do that, I need to bring this up to its proper place and keep it there without a bunch of stuff in the way underneath. So we cut off a little piece of 4x4. We put it exactly where it needs to go because we used a string, the magic of strings again, to run from one pole down there to the second pole to get a straight line. And then we have this located where this one needs to be to maintain that straight line. So this is where the new post will go. And I'm going to use this and lock this down once we get level. So torpedo level, you're going to have to spot it. I'll lift it up. Actually, back. Let's do that the other way. You lift it up, please. And I'll spot it. Down on it. Quite a bit. A tiny bit more. That looks good enough for the moment. Alright, good. So now all we have to do is raise this up to where that is basically sitting there. I have decided to move this post further back, so I really kind of wanted this concrete to extend beyond this point right here. And so I really need to add maybe 4 inches to the width of this. So what I decided to do was to move the box out a little further, so I've got maybe a 1/2 inch of overhang right here. And I think that'll be perfect. So the box is being rebuilt right now. We'll see how it fits. All right, I'm good that way. Good that way. Good that way. Propped a bunch of stuff up, filled it all in. And I have level in 4 directions, and I'm touching right here. Exactly what I wanted to do. So when I pour my concrete, I'll have a nice level pad all the way across, and all 3 of these guys can sit on it. We started digging our post holes, got the one side done in the right spot perfectly, went to do the second one, and lo and behold, there's concrete down there. And I've got that box set perfectly. I don't want to move it. So what we're going to do is dig out around it a little bit. We'll set the post on top. The post will have screws on 4 sides sticking out to give it some stability when the concrete sets. And then I'll use a couple of boards and a couple of stakes to tie it off and hold it perfectly level while the concrete sets. Yeah, that's going to work. What I want to do is I want to put this stringer back, and then we're going to use that as a guideline on exactly where this post goes in relation to the stringer, because there's an exact point on the stringer, there's an exact point on the string that runs this way. So what I wanted to make sure that I did was use as much meat on this as possible to attach to the post. So theoretically, my post is going to come right here. So we want to line this edge up with this edge, right? So, and then also this. That looks good. That's actually just about as good as it's going to get. So we plumbed it in both directions, and we've got our string distance correct. So it's okay for me, I think, to lock it down to the stringer for the moment. So stringer's going to come back off because I have to attach it up top permanently. So we're going to go ahead and put some braces on this board so it won't move. Okay, we have a nice stable pole and we're headed towards pouring concrete, but we've got to get this pole in first. This one gets a little more complicated. Okay, so we're going. Good Lord. Somewhere right there. You go ahead and set your end down.
All right.
Just kind of watch it.
Whoop.
All right, here's your moment of truth. Does this one match the one I just put down? And the answer is no. The box has to come towards me. All right, so fortunately I have this corner on that block right there already, so it's pretty even. So all I've got to really do is move this a bit. Let's see if it works. All right, that's close enough for government work. Right there. Okay, pull and hole. Yeah, that's actually gonna work pretty good. We'll put in 2 screws again like we did on the other side. Then we'll pour our concrete, and once that sets some, we'll come back and pull the stringers off and attach them up top where they belong. First batch of concrete is being mixed. You'll notice here that I'm taking 3-inch screws. and I probably should have done this before the post went in to be a little easier. But I'm dropping them down into here about an inch in to act as anchors for the post in the concrete. It stops it from spinning, turning when it's dry. That actually is per code. You're supposed to do that. They kind of prefer on big posts to do it with rebar. Often I will dry pour concrete. In this particular case, I think it's better probably to do it wet, mainly because of these posts. I have poured plenty of posts dry before, and they've worked great. I want this to get a head start because we're going to be using it actually starting this evening. Alright, we started laying the concrete. What we're doing next is I'm actually going to reinforce it a little bit. For something this small, it doesn't really matter. It's not heavy load bearing, but I actually have some leftover pieces of rebar from another project. So I'm going to lay, a few of these in here so this thing doesn't crack when when our little buddies, the armadillos, decide to make their presence known. That should help. 5.5 bags of concrete later. This is good enough. It worked out well. All I really need to do now is set the stringers at the top and put them in place permanently. And we'll move on from there, probably to lunch. The front two poles are in place. Concrete's all done. Poles are nice and solid where they are. Everything's lined up perfectly. I've got essentially the same dimension between the outside boards here that I have up at the top. Had a little bow there, so I pulled them in and corrected that. My alignment here across perfectly level, and here the center one, it's as close as you can get. It's just pretty much perfect. So we had a minor challenge with these Simpson hangers in that I didn't know how to use them, so I put them up and actually did it wrong. My stepson caught the fact that I was doing it incorrectly, and he corrected me, and so kudos to him. He's the person helping me on this one. So that's all great. Those are in perfect condition now, ready to roll. What's left? Well, we have two more posts. One that goes here on a hole that's already started, and one that goes on the other side. Those will be center supports for the stringers, and then time to put on all the treads. So all the posts and the treads are getting a quarter round put on them. They're really sharp edges otherwise, and I don't really like that very much. So got a little router out, running it down each board and each post to smooth out the corners. So I stood the post up here where I want it, right even with this edge. Picked my spot for the hole, going down about 16 inches and giving 2 or 3 inches around the post for concrete. Very nice. Very nice. That's perfect. Sweet. Excellent. Same thing on the other side. Well, did you notice? There's a little issue here. That post where it's set right now is too short. Now I bought a 10-footer for this side because I just knew that I had a drop off here to deal with. I didn't think it was a problem on this side here. So I have two choices. I can go buy another post, or I can raise that post up. I just need to figure out how high it needs to be above the steps. Let me tinker with this a little bit. Well, I have tinkered, and what I decided to do is buy another post. I actually could make this work. I need about 42 inches above that to get to where I need to be for my railing, but I'm not exactly entirely sure of my numbers on that, and if I make a mistake, it's going to be a lot harder to fix later than it is just to fix it now. So I'm going to buy another post later, I'm going to leave this one where it is, but I'll just come back to it tomorrow sometime and drop a different post in and set that one in concrete. Well, this is unwelcome. Went to dig the post hole and there's a big chunk of concrete down there. It's got to come out. No, don't you roll back in that hole. Oh my God. Post number 2 is in place. Now it's time to start putting some treads on. They're being cut as we speak. Rounded. All I have to do is get the right distance on each end. Be ready to roll. Sometimes people don't use spacers because the wood is green. It's going to shrink some. I like to have at least a little gap in there. Then when it goes through its little shrinking process, I've got a little bigger gap for water to run off. The other thing I need to do is put the crown up, which I didn't do on that one. Let's try it again. And if you're not familiar with the crown concept, see this loop here. Yep. This needs to be the upside. And you get a lot of cupping that occurs like this, and it's less likely to have cupping if the crown is up. It's a little bit after 5, and we started a little bit after 8 this morning with an hour off for lunch, and all the treads are now in place. I'm very happy with how this is turning out. I would have done one of those kind of high-speed video things, screwing all the treads down, but it started raining, and that made it impossible. The camera does not really like the moisture. The following morning, additional work was done. I got that post in that I had to replace because the first one was too short. It's in concrete. Each of the posts in the middle got a single lag bolt put in place to add a little additional strength. Should be sufficient. All my big stack of wood is gone. It went to the burn pile. Rearranged the pathway going up, moved the rocks off to the left a little bit where they're lined up properly. I had some gravel left over I brought in. We're going to bring that up to the level of the front end of the steps, and probably later today I'll pull the form boards out. I wanted to give them at least 48 hours for the concrete to dry. Next step will be the railings. It may take me a few days to get through that. The spacing is different now on the post because I extended the steps by 1 tread, so the old railings won't fit anymore. They're a little bit too short. For the time being, I'm going to tack a couple of those up strategically, so if someone's walking up the steps, they have something to grab a hold of. Hopefully in the next few days I'll get around to finishing up the railing part of the project. Welcome to day 4 of our little stair project. Day 1 was cutting all the stringers out. Day 2, we tore out the old treads and the old stringers and a couple of old posts and put in new treads and stringers and posts. Day 3, I put up a couple little temporary railings and cleaned everything up. And now we're moving into day 4 where it's time to actually put up the full-time, lasting for the next 20 years railings. Admittedly, this could have been done in 2 days. I've just been kind of taking my time. And pretty good chance actually I won't get it all done today either because I expect something or another to step in and slow me down. Let's get started. rock and roll. Do the bottom one first, the top one will stay in place by itself. Got my mark on the board. One. Double check. There's my mark. There's the top. Couldn't be any better. All set. If I needed it for any reason, this is one more verification that I've got a nice straight line on all of these points here. I'm pretty much touching all the way across, which is fantastic. So the next step is to figure out how high I want this new bottom rail to be above this point all the way up. Well, you want it to be as low as possible to keep little kids from, sticking their head through there and getting stuck, something like that. So I'm going to raise it up just an inch. These are pre-cut. I cut 4 of them, 2 for each side of the baluster, and everything's pretty straight. So this should really actually work out nicely. So all I've really got to do is raise it up to the height I want it, and then tack it in place, and then we're done. Similar process here. Let's just pre-set 1 screw, and these are 1 1/4 being used on a 1 3/4 inch thick board. Get my tape measure. Give myself a 1 inch gap at the front of this tread, and then set her in place. Right there, looks pretty good. That's go. I have 4 openings here, 2 on each side. I've established a nice pattern, so I'm going to go ahead and set up all 4 of these, and then come back after and do all the balusters, and then put the outside board up here, and then we'll put the cap board up top and cut the top off. I'm going to cut it a little wide one time, make sure I like it, and then take the actual line off. Just a little bit off. Happy with that, that's perfect. Got my angle. This angle is going to end up being essentially identical. I'll cut it outside just for grins. That's beautiful. Couldn't be. All right. So now I have my pattern board cut. I'm going to mark 3 more boards using this as a pattern. First, I'm going to walk it over real quick and just double check it and make sure it fits the way I think it should. And then I'll come back and mark the other 3 boards and cut them. So that fit was dead on perfect. So the one thing I'm going to do is I kind of like to have the crown on the board up. This one I had already checked. It was fine. This is not what I would call super duper high quality lumber, but you deal with what you get. Whoa, that one's got one heck of a bow to it. But it's very limber and you can move it back into place, so that's fine. So our crown is up there. And then it's up there. So this lets me also, using my pattern, pick the best part of the board to use. Like for example, down on this end there's a big chunk out, and I obviously don't want to use that if I can help it. A little bit of chunk here, but that's just the way it is. And we're also going to route these, so a lot of that will go away on the edges when we put the quarter round on it. Now they'll all be identical after I'm done cutting them. Next step, let's put a nice quarter round on it. Today is day 5. Actually, day 4 was 3 days ago. Got all these stair railings put up in the proper location. Now we have to put these balusters up. I believe that's what they're called. And they have to be spaced exactly perfectly. They can't be more than 4 inches apart based on the county code. I believe that's to stop a little child from maybe getting stuck between them. They've got to be small enough gap in between. This takes a lot of math, a lot of sketching, and just a lot of ciphering to figure out exactly the spacing. Because 4 inches wouldn't work all the way across. I'd end up short. So I want to have them centered, same space in between in every location. It's not my favorite part of the job. I'll be using 2-inch screws. This is 1.5 inches. Coming into this, it's 3/4, so 2 inch will give me a little bit of room without poking a hole through the other side. 3 7/8 right there. Yeah, so I'm doing that one wrong. So, gotta be the other side. There we go. You're probably thinking this is a little bit nuts. Why didn't he just lay them out and mark them in advance instead of doing it this way? Well, it's because if I was on a horizontal surface like this, that'd be really easy. But I'm not. I'm coming down here on an angle, so I can't measure in this direction, and I can't measure in this direction because I lose a lot going across if I'm not level this way. So that's why I'm kind of laying it out like this first. So it turns out that this is not going to work. So right now every 5.5 inches is the face, is this face of this. So 5.5 puts me here. 5.5 plus 2 times 2 is 11. So the next one would be 16.5, which is right here. So I'm 1/2 inch off. I need to either shorten or widen. Now I need to figure out which one I want to do. Wow. Okay. Well, that took a little effort, but it's perfect now. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to mark the edges on each of these. I've got to take these over and clean up a few of them because they're a little bit too long, and then I'll screw them in permanently, and then put the 2 cap sides on the other side here and screw that in permanently, and I'll be done with this leg. The leg on the other side is exactly the same, so I'll use the same dimensions over there that I used here and put those up next. Just other 2 sections up top, I need to go through the same process all over again. So now I need to install the other half of this railing. So I want to make sure it's perfectly in line with that other piece. So all I really have to do, grab level and make sure that it's level. Up top it's braced against the pole, so we know that end's going to be accurate, but I will go up there and do exactly the same thing before I put a second screw in here. Now I don't need to anchor all these together on these face plates on every single one. I'm just going to do it every 4th one. Yeah, that'll be fine. It'll look good. as I mentioned previously, I reused these uprights. I guess they're balusters from the old steps. And I came up a little bit shy, 7 pieces shy actually. So I've got everything marked off, ready. I'll run down to Ace and buy some 2x2s and cut them sometime a little bit later this week. But everything else is done with the exception of the caps that go on top. So now it's time to cut those. I'm using 1x4s for the caps. And the only tricky part here is getting this angle cut because this whole thing's going uphill. So I'm going to cut a little scrap piece. I only need about 6 feet out of this, maybe 6.5. So I'll cut a little short piece. Cut a few different angles until I get it exactly perfect and then mark that angle and use it over and over again. I'm going to start about 30, see how far I get. Pretty sure that's not going to be steep enough. So not to toot my own horn here, but 30 is perfect. I must have remembered that number from something before. Let's look at it in the other angle. I'll take that all day long. I'm going to get a close number here, add about 1.5 inches to it, and cut it maybe 3 times to get the exact length that I want. So that's 68. So I'm going to cut it about 69 inches. Alright, definitely cut long. Sweet. Alright, there's my bottom mark. That'll give me a good idea. Still going to cut it long. Second time. Alright. A little more. Third time. It's got a little more than a blade width. We'll do it. Fourth time. Perfect fit. Now in theory, this board should fit perfectly on this side as well. It's 1/8 of an inch short up top. So I'm going to use this as a pattern and just extend it just a little bit longer. Perfect. All 4 caps are cut and they just need to be screwed down into the runners here. Got to be a little bit meticulous about this, and that you want to have the same basic spacing on this side and this side. And this board, in all cases, is pretty much not perfectly straight. So I'll just kind of pull it in as I go. Alright, looks nice and straight. 3 more. Done for the evening. All of this on this side and up top is finished. I've tacked this board, and this bottom board in place temporarily because we're supposed to get some rain tomorrow, and it may rain before I get to it. I don't want these to warp, so holding them in place right now, they'll hold their shape when the rain comes. So tomorrow we buy some more of these, and then the last job will be to cut these off to the right level, and we'll be done. Following morning, day 6 now. Every now and then you have a stroke of luck. I happen to go into my wood shed where I store leftover lumber, and I had 4 of these 2 by 2 by 8 pressure treated boards that I used for the balusters previously. I only needed 3.5, and I actually had a piece of one left over that I had been using as a stake to drive into the ground. So I'll clean this one up and cut these. Didn't have to go to the store and buy anything. Fantastic. I don't know if there's any rule as to how high to make this. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to take this measurement from here to here and mark it on the other poles and see how it looks before I cut it. It's 4.5 inches. Yeah. Make a couple of marks here. So 4.5 up here. Puts me right there. If I scribe that around here, right here, that gives me, about 2.25, a little more, a bump up over here. Now let's look at this one. This is 3.25, and down there that gives me 2.25. I think I want to split the difference and go with 3 inches off the back side. This will be the most difficult cut, because I got to come in from the back side to make the 3rd cut. It'll take 3 cuts to get through. See how it works? Tempting to get the reciprocating saw to do the finish cuts. See if I can manage. You know what? I'm gonna get a handsaw and finish it. Right. It's actually a pretty clean cut. If I'm not happy with it, I'll take a planer and plane it off a little bit. We're done. That's it. It's finished. Hey, remember back at the beginning when I shook this post that was here before and it just moved the whole staircase? Now, nothing. Solid as rock, or solid as concrete anyway. I am going to go ahead and buy caps to put on these posts. I think it'll help protect them over the long term. And that's it. Another project completed. Hey, thanks for watching, and please remember to like and share and subscribe. And as always, the advice and comments are welcome. And I'll see you next time on Keeping Up with Papa, Life After Work. Papa out.